Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right into some absolutely fascinating philosophies and psychological frameworks from YouTuber Yasminn, specifically from her channel Just to See What Happens. Our laser focus for this one, a wild concept she calls alchemical magnetism.
Spot on. And we're taking a dialectical approach to the material today. Yasminn presents these concepts with this very mystical, almost energetic flavor, which is cool. But as we dissect her practical hacks, we're going to put them to the test. Like, are we looking at literal spiritual alchemy here? Or are we actually witnessing a masterclass in highly calibrated behavioral psychology? Let's get into it.
So, the core question we have to ask ourselves right off the bat is super fascinating. When you listen to Yasminn, she really frames these concepts as a spiritual practice, right? She talks about existing beyond space and time, nurturing a goddess presence, and practicing radical self-love to protect your energetic aura. It all feels very, well, magical.
Oh, for sure. But then, on the flip side, if we apply a more sociological lens to her advice, the whole thing starts to look quite different. You strip away that mystical language, and what you're left with are these highly calibrated interpersonal power plays. We're going to examine if these are actually just incredibly effective techniques for asserting dominance and demanding respect in social hierarchies.
Section 1. Defining alchemical magnetism. To really understand this whole framework, we first need to establish exactly what Yasminn means when she uses the term magnetism. I mean, it's a total buzzword, sure, but she actually anchors it in some very specific, observable behaviors. Magnetism isn't about being the loudest person in the room. Yasminn defines it as an internal, effortless flow. It's the state of existing where you pull people in simply by respecting your own time and rhythm. It's literally the complete opposite of rushing to be accepted.
Right, and psychologically speaking, this is a massive leverage point. Think about walking into a networking event or, a crowded room.
Most people enter a new social situation immediately asking, do they like me? But Yasminn is advising her viewers to completely flip that script. It becomes, do I even like them? Is this actually worth my time? By simply prioritizing your own time and your own evaluation over seeking that external validation, you instantly become the prize in the dynamic. It's a very grounded psychological anchor.
Section 2, the boundary paradox.
So this brilliantly illustrates her concept of the daily energy budget, which is basically how you assert limits without breaking that effortless magnetic persona we just talked about. Yasminn argues that, hey, we don't have infinite energy. It is a finite spiritual and emotional resource. When you accept disrespect, ignore your gut intuition, or constantly over-explain yourself, you are quite literally sucking this energetic resource dry.
Exactly, which leaves you with absolutely nothing left to actually be magnetic with. I mean, if you're constantly depleted by boundary violations, your baseline psychological state is just going to be anxious and defensive. The preservers are how you fix this. Gentle firmness, honoring your own rhythm, and most importantly, walking away unnegotiably when a boundary is crossed.
Yasminn points out that so many of us, especially women, are taught to just smile and adapt when we're disrespected. But she says you can be incredibly polite and gentle without being submissive. It's this delicate balance of being soft yet assertive. And I really want to steelman this idea because, honestly, it's brilliant behaviorism. The softness, the gentle delivery, the polite tone, it totally disarms the other person. But it is entirely backed by ironclad assertiveness. You don't need to yell if you have an absolute willingness to just walk away unannounced. The softness is a luxury you can afford because your power dynamic is absolute. You aren't negotiating at all. You are simply stating facts.
Section 3, the power of silence.
Now, that willingness to just not engage brings us to one of the most potent and, let's be real, difficult hacks in her entire toolkit. As a species, we are absolutely terrified of dead air, but Yasminn wants us to become deeply comfortable with silence in our interactions. On one hand, she views silence as this tool for profound connection. She talks about looking deeply into someone's eyes, even at total strangers, and experiencing a merging of souls. It builds this intense, magnetic intimacy. But then, on the flip side, she also advocates using silence as a total power play. When faced with a difficult interaction or, say, a veiled insult, she explicitly advises against clapping back. Instead, you weaponize that silence to make the aggressor sit in the extreme discomfort of their own social misstep.
Yasminn puts it like this, specifically regarding people who make disrespectful jokes. Try just staring at them when they do it. You'll see how they lose their composure completely. Man, this right here is exactly why I argue this is psychology, not just magic. When someone makes a passive-aggressive joke, they expect a reaction, either a defensive response or a nervous laugh to diffuse the tension. By offering zero verbal response and just maintaining a flat stare, you completely violate their social expectation. Have you ever tried to just sit and let someone else's awkwardness hang in the air? It's intense. You force them to sit in their own mess. And just as she notes, they immediately scramble to fill the void. It strips them of dominance right then and there.
Section 4. The Self-Seduction Ritual.
Now, looking at the actual mechanics of the self-seduction ritual, Yasminn is very, very clear. This is not about standing stiffly in front of a mirror and repeating corporate-style affirmations like, I am worthy. No, this is an energetic, fully embodied shift. Step 1, you look deeply into your own eyes. Step 2, you give yourself the praise you usually back the outside world for. And step 3, you actively seduce yourself. You dance, you literally give yourself sexy eyes. You are treating your own body and energy as a sacred temple.
And I know, it sounds entirely wild to the uninitiated, right? But the goal here is to short-circuit the brain's reliance on external validation. You are quite literally self-generating the dopamine and the confidence loop that you would normally depend on a romantic partner or social approval to provide for you.
Yasminn drops this great line. You are teaching people all the time how to treat you. By treating herself as a sacred, highly desirable being in private, she naturally carries that exact energy out into public.
Which bridges the gap perfectly between our two viewpoints today. Society is basically a giant mirror. It reflects back the exact value you performatively grant yourself. If you internalize that you are high value through this ritual, your micro-expressions permanently alter. You teach everyone in your life how to value you long before you even speak a single word.
So what's the ultimate debate here? Well, on the alchemical side, this ritual is all about cultivating a goddess presence. It's this internal elevation to a sacred pedestal that ripples outward, magnetically attracting better relationships and naturally repelling anyone who just doesn't resonate with your frequency. And over on the behavioral conditioning side, it's all about updating your nonverbal broadcast. Yasminn herself mentions that humans are constantly analyzing cues to build a sort of database on how to treat someone. By seducing yourself, you literally overwrite your own insecure behavioral cues with cues of extreme self-assurance, which then automatically commands respect from the sociological hierarchy around you.
Section 5. Magic or Psychology.
When we synthesize this entire framework, the boundaries, the silence, the self-seduction, the crux of it is really this. Whether you view these hacks as modern magic, where you're protecting your energetic aura and vibrating at a higher frequency, or if you view them as straight-up behavioral psychology, executing calculated boundary negotiations and nonverbal power plays, the final result is identical.
Exactly. We really have to ask if the label even matters, if the outcome is exactly the same. We can debate the underlying mechanics all day long, but both lenses prove that these hacks fundamentally shift your interpersonal dynamics. The result, either way, is undeniable personal power and a really deep sense of internal stability.
And that leaves us with a final provocative question for you to ponder. When you try that mirror ritual tomorrow morning, or the next time you hold unbroken silence in the face of a passive-aggressive comment, are you projecting alchemical magic? Or are you just mastering the levers of human behavior? Honestly, it might be the exact same thing. Test these hacks in your own life, just to see what happens. Thanks for joining us on this explainer.
I want you to just take a second and picture the most magnetic person you have ever met in your entire life.
Oh, that's a great starting point.
Right. Just bring them to the front of your mind right now. Really visualize them. When they walk into a room, what actually happens to the space around them?
It shifts completely.
It does. And is it their physical looks? I mean, maybe they are conventionally attractive, but if we're being honest, you and I have both met gorgeous people who are just incredibly painfully boring.
Oh, absolutely. Total flat line.
Yeah, exactly. The kind of people whose physical beauty is entirely eclipsed by just a flat, uninspired presence.
Right, there's no pull.
No pull at all. No, with the person you were picturing right now, it is something else entirely. It's this unexplainable gravitational pull.
It's an energy.
Yes. It is a distinct, palpable energy. It is the way they seem to effortlessly exist in their own skin, and yet you just want to look at them. You want to listen to them.
You lean in when they speak.
You literally lean in. You desperately want to be close to their orbit. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are sitting down to pull apart the literal mechanics of how that gravitational pull is generated.
And we're approaching this through a really highly specific, fascinating framework today.
We are.
We're looking at a collection of philosophies, psychological observations, and honestly, almost spiritual inquiries put forward by a creator named Yasminn.
On her channel, right, just to see what happens.
Exactly, just to see what happens. She has this incredibly expansive, nuanced view on human behavior. But our mission for this deep dive is strictly delineated. We are filtering out all the other noise to laser focus exclusively on what I think is best described as her practical, alchemical approach to cultivating personal power.
I love that word, alchemical.
It fits perfectly because we are looking at how she defines magnetism,
Yeah.
the actual mechanics of soft assertiveness, and these deeply private rituals of self-seduction.
The alchemy of magnetism. That is the perfect way to frame it because, we need to be clear right up front. We're not talking about traditional aggressive power moves here.
Yeah, not at all.
This has absolutely nothing to do with being the loudest, most dominant person in the boardroom.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with reading some list of manipulative negotiation tactics.
Right. It's not about dominating people.
And it certainly has nothing to do with that hollow, consumerist version of self-care that tells you a bubble bath is going to fix your crumbling self-esteem.
Which it won't.
Spoiler alert, it won't. No, we are diving into a radical inside-out framework. It is the proposition that preserving your personal energy and aggressively, passionately valuing yourself behind closed doors literally rewires your external reality.
Which is such a massive claim, but she backs it up.
She really does.
Yeah.
It is the idea that your internal boundaries and your private rituals fundamentally teach the rest of the world exactly how they are allowed to treat you.
Which completely shifts the paradigm of how we view our daily interactions, honestly.
Yes.
Well, if her framework holds true, and we will definitely explore the deep psychological underpinnings of why it does, then every single time you compromise a boundary, just to be polite, you're doing damage.
Just to keep the peace.
Right. Or every time you look in the mirror and speak poorly to yourself, you aren't just having a momentary lapse in confidence. You are actively broadcasting a set of behavioral instructions to everyone around you.
Wow.
You are literally handing them a manual on how to devalue you.
Handing them the manual. That is terrifying, but it makes so much sense. Let's start by looking at how Yasminn completely redefines what magnetism even is, because it runs counter to almost everything we are taught.
Oh, completely. It's a total flip.
I think Western society conditions us to believe that to be magnetic, you have to be wildly charismatic. You have to be on all the time.
Right. The life of the party.
Exactly. You have to walk into a room and immediately match or even exceed the high energy of that space. You need to be universally likable, have a witty anecdote ready to go, and essentially just entertain everyone.
But Yasminn argues the exact opposite of that.
She really does.
She asserts that magnetism isn't about being the loudest or the brightest or the most entertaining person in the room. It begins with a profound, uncompromising respect for your own time, your own internal rhythm, and your own pacing.
Your own rhythm. Let's talk about the energy budget, because I think that's central to this.
It is.
Yeah.
She introduces this concept of the daily energy budget, which I find to be an incredibly useful cognitive tool.
Same.
Because instead of viewing personal energy as this infinite, abstract thing that we just magically have, she treats it as a finite, measurable, and highly valuable resource.
Like currency.
Exactly like currency.
Yeah.
You only have so much cognitive and emotional bandwidth in a given day. And her argument is that every time you tolerate a situation that doesn't serve you, every time you accept behavior that hurts you, or every time you contort yourself to keep the peace in some uncomfortable dynamic, it physically drains that energy reserve.
It drains it because it takes a massive amount of internal effort to pretend you are okay when you are fundamentally not okay.
Precisely. It's exhausting. In psychology, we often talk about the concept of allostatic load, which is basically the cumulative burden of chronic stress and life events.
Right.
When you are constantly performing compliance, like when you are smiling at a passive-aggressive comment from a coworker, or rushing to accommodate someone else's frantic anxiety, your nervous system is working overtime.
Your heart rate is probably up, even if you look calm.
Exactly. You are spiking your cortisol, you're micromanaging your facial expressions, suppressing your authentic emotional response, and calculating the safest way to respond. That requires an immense amount of caloric and cognitive energy.
It is exhausting.
It is. And here is the core mechanism of Yasminn's philosophy. True magnetism requires an energy surplus.
A surplus, not just scraping by.
Right, is an overflow. Magnetism is what happens when your internal energy is so abundant that it vibrates outward and pulls other people into your field.
Like a magnet.
Exactly. But if your daily energy budget is constantly being drained by tolerating disrespect or, matching someone else's chaotic pace, you are operating at a severe deficit.
Yeah.
You are biologically and energetically bankrupt. You literally have no magnetism left to project.
I look at it like a smartphone battery.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. Because if you have 50 background apps running all the time, and in this human context, those apps are unspoken resentments, tolerated disrespects, minor boundaries you let your friends or your partner cross your battery, is just bleeding power.
It's constantly draining in the background.
Exactly. You might look totally fine on the outside, the phone screen turns on, you are functioning, but your screen is dim. You don't have the literal juice required to shine brightly and project that surplus energy. You are just trying to make it to the charger at the end of the day.
And the tragedy is that most people are walking around with dozens of these psychological background apps draining their battery. And they wonder why they feel so invisible.
Yes.
Or why they feel like they have no impact when they enter a room. They think they need to go read a book on how to be more charismatic, or they try to artificially perform high energy, which only drains them faster.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is. What they actually need to do is force quit the apps that are leaking their energy in the first place.
Okay, but let me push back on this idea of pacing and slowing down, because Yasminn talks heavily about moving slowly, not rushing into things, and dictating your own pace is a sign of magnetism.
She does.
In a vacuum or on a private yoga retreat, that sounds incredibly magnetic and grounding. But let's apply this to the real world for a second. We live in a hyper-fast, deeply caffeinated, hyper-responsive society.
They do.
If you are sitting in a corporate meeting and everyone is talking loud and fast, firing off ideas, interrupting each other, and you intentionally slow down, you take a breath before answering, you lower the volume of your voice, doesn't that run the massive risk of just coming off as aloof?
I see what you mean.
Or worse, arrogant. Like you think you are somehow above the room and everyone in it?
It is a very natural fear. And I think it highlights just how deeply our societal conditioning runs. We've been trained, and in many corporate or social environments, actively coerced into believing that speed equals value.
Oh, totally. The fastest person to answer is the smartest?
Right. We operate under the delusion that if we answer an email within 30 seconds, or if we jump into a conversational lull without a single second of pause, we are proving our worth. We are performing our usefulness to the group. We are terrified of dead air.
God forbid there's a silence.
Exactly. But Yasminn frames this frantic matching of energy not as a sign of competence, but as a sign of submission.
Submission. Wow. That is a heavy word.
It is.
So, by matching their pace, you are essentially letting the external environment dictate the state of your own nervous system.
Exactly. From a behavioral standpoint, when you walk into a frantic room and you immediately rush to match the loudest, fastest person in that space, you are implicitly agreeing that their frequency is the baseline reality.
You're saying you're in charge.
Right. You are handing them the authoritative power over the environment. You are abandoning your own center to join their chaos. What Yasminn is suggesting is that when you intentionally refuse to do that, when you slow down, when you speak softly but with absolute firmness, you create a stark contrast.
And humans notice contrast.
Human attention is biologically wired to focus on contrast.
You break the pattern.
You break the pattern entirely.
Yeah.
By maintaining your slow, deliberate pace, you actually force the room to adapt to your frequency. It doesn't read as arrogant if it is rooted in genuine calm rather than condescension.
Right, you're not rolling your eyes at them.
No, you're just anchored. It reads as unshakable internal security. It instantly elevates your perceived status in the dynamic because you are demonstrating non-verbally that your internal rhythm is stronger and more resilient than the external chaos of the group. You become the anchor.
Okay, so if true magnetism is fundamentally reliant on this energy surplus, and we achieve that surplus by force quitting those draining background apps and refusing to leak our energy to external chaos, the immediate practical question you're probably asking yourself right now is, how do we actually stop the leaks?
Yes.
How do we deal with the people who are constantly trying to drain that battery? And this brings us directly into Yasminn's alchemical approach to boundaries, which is radically different from the standard advice you hear online.
It really is. The traditional self-help narrative around boundaries often treats them like these rigid, aggressive walls you have to build to protect yourself from enemies.
Like a fortress.
Right. Yasminn introduces a very specific, paradoxical framework that she calls being soft yet assertive.
Soft yet assertive. And she lays out 2 explicit warnings about how not to do this. First, she says you absolutely must not wait for a fight to place a boundary.
Crucial point.
And second, you must not default to being submissive just because you want to be perceived as nice. She treats the communication of a boundary as something sacred, something that requires reverence rather than rage.
If we look at this through the lens of human trauma responses, Yasminn is charting a very narrow, highly effective course between two extremes that we have unfortunately normalized in our culture.
What are those extremes?
On one end of the spectrum, you have the fight response. This is the aggressive wall-building defense mechanism. This is the person who swallows their discomfort for months. They wait until they are pushed to the absolute brink. They build up massive toxic resentment, and then they finally explode.
We've all been there or seen it.
Right. They place a boundary, but they do it with a sledgehammer. It's
Yeah.
loud, it's combative, it's laced with anger, and frankly, it is incredibly expensive from an energy standpoint. It drains the battery completely.
It takes days to recover from an outburst like that. Your adrenaline is spiked, your hands are shaking, you can't sleep. It's an awful state to be in.
It leaves you depleted. But on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, you have the fawn response, which is the socially conditioned people-pleasing mechanism.
The doormat.
Basically. As Yasminn rightly points out, this is particularly heavily conditioned into women, but it affects all demographics. Fawning is when your nervous system perceives a threat, like someone crossing your boundary or disrespecting you, and instead of fighting, you attempt to neutralize the threat by being overly accommodating.
You smile while your boundaries are actively being trampled.
Yes. You adapt, you shrink, and you suffer in silence just to keep the peace. You hope that if you are just nice enough, the other person will eventually respect you.
Which they never do, because you've just taught them that your boundaries are merely suggestions.
Precisely. They have no reason to stop. Yasminn's concept of soft firmness is the alchemical middle ground between the sledgehammer and the doormat.
I love that.
It is the profound realization that you do not need to raise your voice, puff out your chest, or act aggressively to be taken seriously. But simultaneously, you absolutely do not negotiate.
Let's visualize what this actually looks like in practice, based on her texts. Because it's not vague. It involves stating exactly what you want, how you want it, and when you want it.
Very specific.
There is zero ambiguity. But the delivery mechanism is gentle. The tone of voice is calm, perhaps even warm. The physical posture is relaxed.
Because that calmness non-verbally signals to the other person that the boundary is not a defensive reaction to a threat. It is simply a statement of objective fact about your reality. It is the weather. You don't argue with the weather.
You don't yell at the rain. It makes me think of a velvet rope at a high-end museum or like a VIP lounge. You know the exact tent I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, the red ones.
Yeah, exactly. It's soft. It's literal velvet. It's pleasant to the touch. It is not a 10-foot-tall concrete wall topped with barbed wire and guard towers. It doesn't look aggressive. But every single person in that museum knows that you absolutely, under no circumstances, cross the velvet rope.
I think that analogy captures the essence perfectly. A concrete wall almost invites defiance.
It does. People want to climb it.
Right. It invites people to text it, to push against it, to see if they can break through. It creates an adversarial dynamic. A velvet rope just exists quietly. And the crucial thing to understand is that the power of the velvet rope does not reside in the physical material of the rope itself.
It's just fabric.
Exactly. The power is entirely derived from the consequence of crossing it. Which brings us to the non-negotiable anchor of Yasminn's entire boundary framework. If the soft boundary is not respected, walking away is the immediate, unarguable consequence.
That's soft.
Full stop. There is no second, third, or fourth warning. There is no screaming match. You do not explain yourself again. You simply pull your energy back and you remove yourself from the space.
But this is where I have to interject, because this is where the theory hits the immense friction of real-life application.
Fair enough.
Think about the last time you were in a situation where someone was actively, intentionally disrespecting you. Maybe it was a condescending boss or a partner crossing a line they knew existed. How difficult is it to maintain that velvet rope softness when your body is physiologically betraying you?
It's so hard.
Right. Your adrenaline spikes, your heart is hammering in your chest, your face gets hot. It feels biologically impossible to be soft when your ancient lizard brain is telling you that you are under attack.
It is incredibly difficult, and acknowledging that difficulty is vital. It requires a profound, conscious rewiring of your nervous system. The reason our adrenaline spikes in those moments is because our brain perceives a threat to our safety.
Even if it's just an emotional threat.
Exactly. Often it's our social or emotional safety, which to our primal brain feels exactly like physical danger. We get shoved into a fight or flight state. To successfully maintain Yasminn's soft firmness, you have to become acutely aware of your own internal state, and you have to name the boundary before you reach that critical breaking point of anger.
So it's about early detection, not letting the pressure build up.
Yes, you have to communicate your limits when they are just preferences, long before they escalate into desperate defenses. The moment you feel the slight twinge of discomfort, you place the soft boundary.
Don't wait until you're mad.
Right. But more deeply than that, the true softness that makes this magnetic does not come from passivity or suppressing your anger. It comes from a place of unshakable internal security. It is the deep, embodied, cellular knowledge that if this person sitting across from you does not respect your velvet rope, you will simply leave and you will be perfectly, entirely fine without them.
The power comes from the lack of desperation.
Completely. Desperation is highly detectable and deeply unmagnetic.
People can smell it on you.
They absolutely can. When you set a boundary with anger, you are often secretly begging the other person to change their behavior so you don't have to leave. You are relying on them to fix the situation.
That's so true.
But when you set a boundary with soft firmness, you are unattached to their reaction. If they respect it, wonderful. If they don't, you leave. That total lack of desperation, that absolute willingness to walk away, is what makes the boundary soft and is also exactly what makes you so magnetically attractive. You are visibly unbothered.
But let's play this out, because human beings are messy, and they love to test limits. Let's say you set the soft boundary. You channel your inner velvet rope. You are calm, and the other person immediately pushes back.
They almost always do it first.
Right. They test the rope. Maybe they make a snide, passive-aggressive joke. They try to provoke you. They say something like, wow, someone's a little sensitive today, trying to make you look like you are overreacting.
Oh, the classic manipulation tactic.
Totally. How do you hold the line in that exact moment without getting dragged into the mud and without burning all that precious energy we are trying to save?
That scenario brings us to one of Yasminn's most potent and, frankly, intimidating tools for managing external conflict. It is the alchemy of silence, and specifically, the weaponization of the stare.
Okay, this specific tactic completely blew my mind when I read it.
It's intense, isn't it?
It is, because it flips our standard social conditioning upside down. We are raised on movies and television shows that tell us that ultimate confidence is having the perfect razor-sharp comeback.
The witty clapback.
The witty clapback that destroys the other person and makes everyone in the room applaud. But Yasminn says no. She argues that true confidence, that kind of wildly enticing, mysterious confidence that actually builds magnetism, is the ability to be deeply, uncomfortably comfortable with the void of silence.
The void.
Yeah. She advises that when you are faced with a disrespectful joke, a provocation, or an awkward interaction, you should not say a single word. You shouldn't defend yourself. You shouldn't laugh it off. You should just sit in absolute silence and stare directly at them.
It is a devastatingly effective psychological tactic.
Why does it work so well?
To really grasp why it works, we have to look at the evolutionary psychology of the void, or the conversational pause. Human nature absolutely abhors conversational silence.
We hate it.
We do. Evolutionarily speaking, humans survived in tribes. Cohesion and constant communication were signs of safety. A sudden silence in the group often indicated danger, a predator in the brush, or a social fracture that could lead to being ostracized. So today, when there is a gap in a conversation, especially an awkward, tense gap, our ancient brain panics.
The alarm bells start ringing.
Exactly. Our anxiety spikes, and we instinctively rush to fill the void.
We over-explain ourselves, we let out that nervous, high-pitched laugh, we backpedal, or we accommodate the other person just to smooth the tension over.
Precisely. And in doing so, we are taking the burden of the awkwardness and placing it onto our own shoulders. We're managing the other person's discomfort for them.
We're doing their emotional labor?
We are, by refusing to fill that gap. By simply holding the silence, you are taking the heavy psychological weight of that awkwardness and dropping it entirely back into the other person's lap. You are forcing them to hold the discomfort of their own disrespectful behavior. Without you rushing in to provide a social cushion, their snide joke just hangs there in the cold air, echoing. They have to listen to what they just said. And almost universally, because humans cannot handle that void, the provocateur will lose their composure.
They start squirming.
They will start scrambling. They will nervously laugh. They will backpedal, or they will awkwardly try to fill the void themselves.
And the specific physical mechanic she highlights here is the eye contact. It is not just looking down at your phone and ignoring them. It is not staring at the wall.
No, it's direct.
It is looking deep into their eyes without feeling even a fraction of a need to entertain them or validate their statement.
The eye contact is the visual anchor of the silence. If you look away, it signals submission or avoidance. By holding the gaze, it signals that you are fully present, you heard exactly what they said, You comprehended the insult, and you are entirely, thoroughly unbothered by it.
You were watching them flounder in the mess they just made.
Exactly. But I think it is equally important to note that Yasminn applies this mastery of silence to positive interactions as well.
Wait, really? How does that work? Staring in silence on a date. That sounds creepy.
It's not creepy if it's calibrated. Holding comfortable silence and deep eye contact on a date, for example, creates a hypnotic, deeply seductive pull. It strips away the superficial nervous chatter that we use to keep people at a safe distance, and it forces a profound, immediate intimacy. In both the negative conflict scenario and the positive romantic scenario, the silence acts as a magnifying glass.
I have to be completely honest here. When I try to imagine executing this in real life, comparing it to a conversational game of chicken, it makes my palms sweat just thinking about it.
It is not easy for a beginner.
It is incredibly uncomfortable to sit in tension. Aren't we terrified that if we just stare in silence after someone insults us, we will look foolish?
Yeah.
Or socially inept, like our brain just short-circuited and we couldn't think of anything to say.
It is a brilliant point because it highlights the massive discrepancy between our internal panic and our external projection. Inside, your nervous system might be screaming at you. Every socially conditioned fiber of your being is demanding that you laugh, make a self-deprecating joke, break the tension, save the interaction. You feel like you look like a deer in headlights.
Exactly.
But externally. To the person sitting across from you who just tried to provoke you, that silence reads as ultimate, unassailable power. It reads as someone who is so deeply secure in their own reality that they do not need to perform, defend, or react.
It is the ultimate flex of personal sovereignty. You are basically saying your words do not have the power to move my internal state.
Exactly. But the physical mechanics of executing this pause are everything. You can't be holding your breath, wide-eyed in terror.
Shaking.
Right. Yasminn suggests physically grounding yourself. Taking a slow, deep breath into your stomach, relaxing your jaw, and literally allowing the silence to just be awkward. Let the awkwardness wash over you without trying to fix it.
Don't fix it, just feel it.
It is essentially a tolerance exercise for your nervous system. You are teaching your ancient brain that social awkwardness is not a lethal threat. You will survive the silence.
Okay, so we have established a robust framework for mastering the external environment. We preserve our precious energy budget by establishing soft, unshakable boundaries, the velvet rope. And we weaponize the void of silence to neutralize disrespect without burning a single calorie of our own energy. This fundamentally radically shifts your dynamic with other people. But Yasminn argues that all of this external boundary work is actually secondary.
It's just the surface.
Right. To truly be magnetic, you have to change the foundational internal question you ask yourself before you even open your mouth or walk into a room. You have to completely change the script of evaluation.
This is where her philosophy moves from behavioral tactics into deep cognitive reframing. And it centers entirely on the internal dialogue, the running monologue we have in our heads when we enter new spaces.
Whether you are walking into a first date, a major corporate meeting, a networking event, or just trying to make new friends at a dinner party.
Anywhere there's a social dynamic.
Right. And for the vast majority of us, myself very much included, when we walk into a room, the background app running constantly in our head is some variation of, do they like me? Am I accepted here? Did I wear the right outfit for this crowd? Was my joke funny? Or did it land flat? Am I impressing them?
It's constant.
We are constantly, obsessively seeking external validation from the environment.
And Yasminn's cognitive hack is to violently, intentionally flip that script. She argues that instead of walking in and asking, do they like me? Your primary, overriding, obsessive priority must become, do I like them? Do I want to spend my finite, precious time and energy with these people?
It sounds like such a simple semantic shift, but the implications are staggering.
It is a radical shift because it is the fundamental pivot from seeking external validation to claiming internal authority. If we think back to the energy mechanics we discussed earlier, the do they like me mindset instantly, automatically places you in a subordinate position.
Because you're asking for something.
Exactly. The moment you ask that question, you become a performer. You are tap dancing on stage for their approval. You are hyper-analyzing their micro-expressions, looking for a nod or a smile.
Hoping they validate you.
Right? You are subtly altering your personality, your opinions, and your volume to fit what you perceive to be their preferences. You are leaking massive, unsustainable amounts of energy trying to secure a passing grade from them.
You are literally handing them the clipboard, handing them the red pen, and asking them to grade your existence.
That is exactly what you are doing. But when you forcefully flip the script to "do I like them," you snatch the clipboard back. You are preserving your energy budget because you are no longer performing. You are observing. You are evaluating.
You're in charge.
Inherently, energetically, this mindset shift makes you the prize in any dynamic. You are the one sitting back and deciding if this interaction, this person, or this job is worthy of an allocation from your limited daily energy budget.
I hear you, and intellectually it sounds incredibly empowering. It makes total sense. But I have to bring us back to the painful reality of high-stakes situations.
They are tricky.
Let's say you have a major job interview for a role that would literally double your salary and change your life. Or you are sitting down for a first date with someone you have had a massive, heart-palpitating crush on for over a year. The stakes feel astronomical.
They absolutely do.
How in the world do you genuinely sit across from them and calmly evaluate them when every single cell in your body desperately, urgently wants a specific outcome? It is so incredibly hard to not care if they like you when you really, really need them to pick you.
You have hit on the absolute core friction of this entire philosophy. And to execute it, it requires accepting a massive, terrifying risk. If you truly prioritize your own evaluation, you have to be genuinely, authentically willing to walk away if they do not meet your standards or if the dynamic feels off.
Even the dream job.
Even if it is the high-paying dream job, even if it is the crush of a lifetime, you cannot fake this mindset.
Because if you fake holding the clipboard, you are still secretly, desperately hoping they give you a good grade. Your energy is still subordinate, even if you are acting tough.
Right. And humans are incredibly intuitive.
Yeah.
We can smell performative detachment from a mile away. Yasminn explicitly notes that when you actually switch this dynamic up, when you stop performing and start genuinely evaluating, the immediate result is that some people will leave your life. Yes. People who are used to you bending over backward for their approval, people who enjoyed the ego boost of you fawning over them, will feel the shift in power. They will feel that you are no longer catering to them, and they will naturally fall away. But she frames this not as a loss, but as a feature of the system.
It is a clearing of the space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It forcefully clears the space for the right people. People who respect your boundaries, who match your authentic frequency, and who don't require you to drain your battery to keep them around.
That makes a lot of sense.
But to get back to your crucial point about those high-stakes situations, the only way to genuinely hold the clipboard in a life-changing meeting without faking it is to cultivate such a deep, unshakable, profound sense of your own internal worth that no single job, no single date, and no single person can ever make or break you.
And that realization is what shifts us into the deepest part of her work. Because to have the sheer, unadulterated audacity to walk into a room and evaluate others rather than begging for their approval, you have to place yourself on a pedestal first.
You have to build the pedestal.
You have to believe you belong on that pedestal. And that does not just happen by reading a book or wishing for it. That requires a rigorous, private ritual. This brings us to what might be Yasminn's most radical, most confronting, and deeply alchemical practice of all the ritual of self-seduction.
This is where we move from psychological tactics into something almost mystical. Yet it is rooted deeply in the proven science of neuroplasticity and embodied cognition.
Which is fascinating.
It is. Yasminn advocates for a practice that goes far, far beyond standard self-care routines or basic cognitive behavioral affirmations. She is talking about actively, physically, and emotionally seducing yourself.
We really need to detail exactly what this looks like because her description is vivid and highly specific. She isn't talking about taking a nice bath.
No.
She is talking about standing in front of a mirror alone. She says you need to give yourself sexy eyes, to physically move, to dance for yourself, to speak words of deep, profound praise out loud to your own reflection.
Yeah.
Yes, telling yourself, you are beautiful, I love you, you are incredible, but doing it with the exact same passion, intensity, and romance that you would normally reserve for a partner you are deeply, madly in love with.
I want to contrast this intensely with the standard, somewhat sanitized version of self-help we usually see promoted. Yasminn specifically and directly criticizes what she calls the stuck affirmation way.
What's that?
We have all tried it. That's when you stand in front of a mirror, feeling awkward, and you monotonously repeat, I love myself, I am worthy, I am a success, like you were reading a dull grocery list.
I've definitely done that. It feels incredibly hollow. You do it, but you don't feel any different.
It feels hollow because, To your nervous system, it is hollow. Your brain is a highly advanced lie detector. When you recite words without emotional resonance or physical engagement, your brain knows you don't really mean it.
It calls your bluff.
Exactly. It creates cognitive dissonance. Yasminn advocates for active, embodied romance. The psychology behind this is profound. By giving yourself those sexy eyes, by allowing your body to move and dance, by speaking with genuine passion and inflection, you are not just saying words.
You're feeling it.
You are engaging your visual cortex, your auditory processing, your physical movement, and your emotional centers simultaneously. You are treating yourself as a sacred, divine entity.
And it is absolutely vital to emphasize that this is a private, secret practice. No one else ever needs to know you do this. You aren't posting it online.
God, no.
Right. It is entirely selfishly for you. It is about intentionally generating the exact flavor of validation, desire, and worship that you normally walk out your front door desperately seeking from strangers and partners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are short-circuiting the human need for external validation by becoming the infinite source of it yourself.
Okay, but let's be totally brutally real for a second. If you are listening to this right now and you are picturing yourself actually executing this tonight, it sounds insanely cringeworthy.
It does.
I will be the first to admit it. The idea of standing in my bathroom, locking eyes with my own reflection, and giving myself a sultry look while passionately telling myself how gorgeous I am, it feels absurd.
It feels very silly at first.
It's like being both the global pop star and the screaming, crying fan in the front row, all inside your own bathroom.
Right.
Why is the actual physical, theatrical act of seduction so necessary? Why isn't a deep, quiet, intellectual appreciation of my own worth enough? Why do I have to perform it?
It is a great question, and the answer lies in the feedback loops of human behavior and neurobiology. Your nervous system, your subconscious programming, does not learn effectively from abstract intellectual concepts.
It needs proof.
It learns from physical experience, from emotion, and from repetition. If you only appreciate yourself conceptually, like thinking, I know I am a smart, capable person, it remains an abstract idea stored in your prefrontal cortex. But when you physically act it out, when your own eyes see your body moving with confidence, when your ears hear your own voice speaking to you with raw passion and adoration, you are bypassing the intellectual mind and encoding that value deep into your primitive nervous system.
You are creating undeniable physical proof for your brain to process.
Yes. You are overriding the old programming with a massive influx of new embodied data. And if we connect this back to Yasminn's broader philosophy, you are constantly, every second of every day, teaching the world how to treat you.
Which goes back to what we said at the start.
Exactly. If you treat yourself like an afterthought, if you speak to your reflection with harshness, criticism, or even just numb indifference, you encode a low-value signal into your very posture. It leaks into your micro-expressions, your tone of voice, your energetic signature. People pick up on it subconsciously.
But if you romance yourself,
If you actively, regularly romance yourself, if you treat yourself like a VIP, a literal deity in your own life, you encode a high-value signal. You begin to walk, speak, and occupy space with the magnetic, relaxed certainty of someone who knows they are deeply, profoundly loved. Yasminn asserts that it is pure arrogance to expect the world to guess your value if you do not actively, passionately demonstrate it to yourself first.
so the practical application is this. If I do the cringy mirror work, if I genuinely romance myself tonight, then tomorrow morning when I walk into the local coffee shop or into that high-stakes meeting, my baseline internal state is, I am already deeply desired, I am already validated, I am already loved.
You already have it.
Right. So I don't need the barista or the hiring manager or the date to give that feeling to me. I am already entirely full.
Precisely. You have achieved that vital energy surplus we talked about in the very beginning. You are vibrating from a place of overflow, not a place of lack. And people are magnetically drawn to overflow.
But true self-seduction, true wholeness, isn't just about finding your best lighting in the mirror, praising your good angles, and ignoring the rest.
No, it's not just the shiny parts.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most difficult piece of Yasminn's alchemical puzzle, integrating the shadows. Because she makes it clear that you cannot be truly powerfully magnetic if you are secretly terrified of half of who you are.
This is the crucial grounding caveat to the entire self-seduction ritual. You cannot just romance the successful parts of yourself. You have to romance the whole package. Yasminn makes a profound point about embracing your flaws, your insecurities, and what she calls your dark little sides. She argues that you cannot possess true, unshakable magnetism if your psyche is fragmented.
When we say fragmented, we mean the mindset of, I love the parts of me that are successful, articulate, and pretty, but I lock the messy, anxious, jealous, or flawed parts in the basement and pretend they don't exist.
Exactly. In psychology, Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable and repress. If you are constantly hiding parts of yourself, you are living in a chronic, low-grade state of terror that someone is eventually going to find out the truth about you.
The imposter syndrome.
Yes, you are terrified of being exposed as a fraud. And managing that fear, keeping the basement door locked, is a massive, relentless energy leak.
Another background out.
A huge one. But when you actively accept your shadows, when you integrate your flaws and say, yes, this anxiety, this impatience, this messiness is also me, and I accept it completely, you utterly neutralize that fear of exposure.
You essentially take away the world's ammunition against you. If I already know I'm a bit neurotic and I accept it, you pointing it out has no power over me.
That is exactly the mechanism. It creates an impenetrable, bulletproof confidence. If you already deeply know, own, and accept your flaws, no one can ever use them to make you feel small. This drastically, immediately reduces your social anxiety.
It stops the energy leaks.
It stops the leaks, and it exponentially increases your magnetic pull. Because a whole person, even a very messy, highly flawed whole person, is inherently more attractive, trustworthy, and magnetic than a perfectly curated but fragmented, robotic persona.
Authenticity has a pull.
Authenticity has a specific frequency, and human beings are biologically wired to trust and be drawn to it.
But I have to highlight a deep tension here. We have just spent time talking about seducing ourselves, which naturally implies highlighting our best traits, acting sexy, feeling divine.
Right.
But simultaneously, in the same breath, we are being told to embrace and integrate our ugly parts. How do you practically do both? How do you romance a flaw? Like, how do I give sexy eyes to my crippling social anxiety or my tendency to be impatient?
It is a brilliant question. I think the key is that you don't necessarily romance the anxiety itself. You don't pretend a panic attack is glamorous.
Thank God.
Right. But you romance the humanity of it. You offer a profound compassion instead of disgust. It comes back to the energy budget. Think about how much energy it takes to actively hate a part of yourself every single day. Think about the calories burned trying to put on a mask, constantly steering conversations away from certain topics so people don't see your insecurities. It is exhausting.
It's the background apps running at max capacity.
Exactly. Hating yourself is the biggest energy drain of all. When you accept the shadows, when you look at your flaws in that mirror and say, I see you and you belong here too, you are closing those background apps.
You're freeing up the battery.
You reclaim all that previously wasted combative energy. And what happens to that reclaimed energy? It converts directly into raw, authentic presence. You aren't distracted by hiding anymore. You are just fully relaxedly there.
And presence is magnetic.
Deep, unfiltered, relaxed presence is the ultimate magnetic trait. When someone is fully, unapologetically comfortable in their own skin, shadows and all, it non-verbally gives everyone else in the room permission to drop their masks and relax too. That relief, that safety, is why we are so overwhelmingly drawn to magnetic people.
Okay, let's step back and look at the entire picture we have painted today. We have unpacked a literal masterclass in personal alchemy drawn from Yasminn's framework.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. The journey to generating that unexplainable gravitational pull does not start with learning how to work a room or how to manipulate a conversation. It starts entirely internally.
Completely.
It starts with rigorously preserving your precious daily energy budget by establishing soft, unshakable boundaries. Remembering the power of the velvet rope, asserting your limits without anger, but with the absolute willingness to walk away.
And it involves mastering your own nervous system enough to weaponize the void of silence, dropping the burden of awkwardness back onto the person disrespecting you, and projecting immense internal power simply by holding a gaze and refusing to perform.
It requires violently flipping the cognitive script before you enter any space, walking into a room and asking, do I like them? Instead of begging for the environment to choose you, claiming the clipboard and becoming the evaluator.
And all of these external boundaries and cognitive shifts are anchored by the radical, fiercely private ritual of self-seduction.
The mirror work.
Yes. Bypassing the intellectual brain and encoding your own immense worth deep into your nervous system through physical movement, eye contact, and passionate praise until the world has absolutely no choice but to mirror that high-value reality back to you.
All while embracing your shadows, your flaws, and your dark little sides to achieve a state of wholeness that is impossible for anyone else to break. The core mechanism running through all of this is undeniable. How you treat yourself internally dictates, down to the exact detail, how the world will treat you externally. You are the sole architect of your own gravitational pull.
It is a profound, paradigm-altering shift from seeking superficial power over others to cultivating deep, sovereign power over yourself.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought today. Something to mull over the next time you look at your reflection.
I love this part.
Yasminn suggests that we spend our entire lives burned through so much of our precious energy, searching the world for someone to look at us with deep desire, profound reverence, and unconditional acceptance.
We're all looking for it.
We really are. We chase relationships, we chase career status, we chase social media followers, all desperately looking for that one specific validating gaze. But what if the ultimate alchemical hack, the true secret to magnetism, is realizing that the exact gaze you have been searching the whole world for is just waiting for you to grant it to yourself in the mirror tonight?